In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? After tenuous research about the thriller genre, a very in-depth idea was gained as to how thriller films are defined. By discovering these codes and conventions in other thriller film openings, we could apply them to our own production. However, we also use techniques of an unorthodox nature, which challenge the stereotypical thriller film that has adapted over several decades into what we see today. First of all, we began filming during daylight. Despite being much more convenient, the bright lighting didn't correlate with the sinister and dark atmosphere we were trying to present. We therefore filmed at night, and the results were much more effective. The establishing shot of the house with a red scale effect set the mood for the production. We incorporated techniques which were manifested in Alfred Hitchcock's psychological thriller Psycho from 1960. He was a master of creating suspense, and we feel that the use of dramatic music and fast-paced editing complements this and also conforms to this. Also, in terms of mise-en-scène, the use of religious props enhanced the mysterious and sadistic atmosphere. The use of these enables the audience to identify with the psychological thriller genre. Furthermore, the use of rapid cutscenes helped to build tension.
How does your media product represent particular social groups? A thriller piece is directed at an aspiring middle-class art house audience. With this in mind, we had to focus on promoting religious symbolism, social realism, and very importantly, the antagonist's thoughts and dreams, instead of focusing on a goal-driven storyline. We chose to use a moderately small terrace house within the centre of Salisbury to add a certain feeling of unease and uncomfort to a more middle-class audience, because this obviously isn't the sort of place they would be used to. By using a small terrace house also promotes social realism. The use of candles in a production can represent a more niche art house crowd because of the budget of candles compared to expensive studio lighting. Anger and rebellion is also a prominent theme, which may be apparent to the 15 to 25 demographic, considering teenage years are often full of angst, rebellion, and individuality, which is sometimes bottled away and expressed through the media. The type of social groups our piece as a whole represent could be hipsters, due to the low budget, individuality, and rebellion. Another social group that could be represented are goths, metalheads, and greasers. Anger and hurt is a very prominent feature to each one of these social groups, and they are all very much cinema goers.
What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why? Due to our niche art house target audience and the fact that our film was of a low budget, we had to be selective of the distribution choices. This is because it wouldn't appeal to a mainstream audience. The option of distributing to places such as the Odeon and View just really wasn't feasible. So we needed to target our specific audience via film festivals such as Raindance Film Festival, Swansea Bay Film Festival, Ann Arbor Film Festival and Zero Film Festival. Due to the location, our thriller could also be shown locally in the Salisbury Arts Centre to gain recognition and reviews in order to improve and modify any minor features. Our thriller will also be available to view on websites such as Vimeo, YouTube, Indie Talk and Filmmaker. This is because our audience is so niche, they will have to find the movie. The movie will not find them as no money has been injected into advertising.
Who would be the audience for your media product? With our film falling into the psychological subgenre, I feel it is aimed at a more art house crowd instead of a mainstream audience. We have decided that an appropriate rating for a thriller would be 15 via BBFC guidelines, as elements of the film, such as the child in the cot destroying the cuddly toy, may have an effect on viewers under this age. One of the conventions of our thriller is that the antagonist plays with the viewer's mind, which is why it is only suitable for aged 15 or older. The specific target audience is both males and females, aged between 16 and 25, who are looking for something a little more thought-provoking than the latest blockbuster. Our aim was initially to be subtle, with a build-up of suspense which appeals to the more educated audience, compared to the more typical audience who may expect blood and gore. We conducted some research and our feedback showed that 51% of the audience would be female, with the other 49% being male, mainly in further education or in the early years of their professional career, social grade C1, but aspiring to be middle class. Other viewers of our thriller film are young adults. These people experiment by watching different films and listening to different music. They often try skater, emo, and urban fashions. They are also undecided on their identity, which is why they go for these stages.
How did you attract or address your audience? We attracted our audience by having suspense throughout the film to keep the viewer engaged. We also made our film different to the average thriller you see in cinema nowadays, with there being no element of violence or intimidation from any other physical parties. It is all psychological. From our research, we found that our audience was gender neutral with no specific leaning to either sex. Our aim with the film was to take out the stereotypical gender orientation that you find in mainstream thrillers and replace them with more thought-provoking scenes. This was done by the use of lighting and in an urban environment, religious images and a music score that gave an element of suspense with the inevitable jump scene you find in many mainstream thrillers. All of these factors combined, we feel, makes the audience want to continue watching. Young adults would certainly be one of the audience types due to the dark scenes with negative connotations.
What have you learned about technologies from the process of constructing this product? When it came to producing our thriller, as a group we were keen to use our own filming gear, aided by some of the school's lighting and dolly equipment. The cameras we used, such as the Nikon D7000 and the Nikon D3000, allowed us to achieve a much higher quality of production, giving the advantage of a much more entertaining and connective production, showing similar characteristics of a professional production, as well as the generic thriller, but with a twist. Using the practical equipment proved to be very simple due to experience in areas such as photography and videography, allowing a focused and well-planned time frame for shooting the thriller. After this process, we set aside some time to look through all of the clips to decide whether or not to use them in the final edit. This enabled us to review slight camera settings and compositional errors, leading to us have to reshoot later on. The next step was editing. This took around 36 hours to complete, as it was the most vital part of the production and had to be done correctly. The software we used to do this was Sony Vegas Pro 10, as the capability of the program allowed us to achieve certain specific aspects we required, as well as accurate syncing and manipulation of the soundtrack. Again, we found this easy to do, as we had experience using this product before, and came across few problems at all, which were easily fixed after looking into guides for this program.
Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learned in the progression from it to the full product? I feel we've learned a lot from our preliminary task, ranging from the editing, filming and actual production of our piece. We've focused mainly on the mise-en-scène and did much more research for this piece than our preliminary. The editing for our piece consisted of many different techniques such as the use of transitions, fades, cross-cutting, flashes and dissolve, so we learned how to use a range of effects and where to use them. We used non-diegetic sound throughout, as well as a constant ambient soundtrack. That, however, being subtle, also creates suspense. We also increased the bass at certain points to create a sense of tension, and we used little sound apart from speech in our preliminary. We also took more attention to detail, and our editing improved immensely. The transitions also switch very quickly, which is very different to our preliminary because we used fading transitions and a lot less of them. Overall, a lot more time and attention has been put into this production and has proved beneficial when contrasting our preliminary task to our final thriller production.